to WCEG Network. I'm William Bill Edwards, your host for Wisdom Wednesdays. For the next hour, I am pleased to have a very, very special guest with me today, Mr. Gil Prado, Executive Director, Boulevard CID. Today's topic is making a path to the future. Gil, how are you?
I'm doing well, Bill. Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here, to be talking to you. It's been a little while. It's been a little minute.
Yeah, it has. It has. Well, Gil, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, as we get started with the conversation.
Sure. My name is Gil Prado. I'm the executive director of the Fulton Industrial CID. I've been the executive director since 2012, so going on 12 years now. Quite a long time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I've been pretty much my background is in urban planning and economic development, real estate development, for the last 12 years, just leading the efforts of the CID to make Fulton Industrial the best district that it can be.
Okay, well, Gil, tell us a little bit about, this whole, what is the CID, how did it get started, what benefit it is to the city.
Okay, so a CID it's basically a public-private partnership where the property owners, create a partnership with the public sector, and the private property owners decide to take a active role in the redevelopment of a district. So at Fulton Industrial, um, we started back in 2009 the efforts, and the effort really is, you have to have a plan of how do you plan to revitalize an area, and then you have a funding source, and the funding source comes from an additional tax on properties, and each individual property owner has to consent to be taxed that additional tax. So as you can imagine, it's quite time consuming, and it's a lot of times it's not an easy sell to talk to a property owner saying, are you willing to pay more taxes to get more services? So it's a long conversation. It's usually something that takes months for them to decide, because they have to really think it over and look at all the costs and benefits. But we've been, successful. We started in 2009, and by 2010, October 2010, the CID was created. Of course, there's a lot of public sector action as well. The city, the county has to pass a resolution allowing for the creation of the CID. The CID operates under the CID Act, which tells us exactly what we can and can't do, how we can spend our money. So there's a lot of rules and regulations behind the creation and management of a CID.
Let's talk a little bit about the whole concept and how it got started, because I was a part of that back in the day. And when you guys first came to me about a CID, I thought you had lost your mind, but we wiggled our way through it. And those efforts were led by people like Sandra Hardy, who was just engulfed in this whole concept of CID and educated herself very well. I know Arthur Ferdinand was a big part of what you had to do. So I realized it was not an easy task to get it formed, but overall it's been a great thing. To even people don't realize, with your members of the CID, that they are taxed. They have taxed themselves. I think at one point in time it was 1%. Am I correct there?
I think at the early years was three mills.
Three meals.
And now we're at 4 mills. We've been at 4 mills now for the last, I don't know, 8-10 years.
And getting people to say, hey, we want you to join this group, but it's going to cost you additional tax that's going to actually come back to you at the end of the day. I think our audience has to understand that this is like a savings account, right? You're taxing yourself for meals, but at the end of the day, a check is written to the CID. Am I correct?
That's correct. So they the property owners in the district pay additional taxes, and then the CID Act says those additional taxes has to be spent in the district. So that owner knows that that additional tax is coming right back to the district, hopefully just a project or programs that will directly benefit their property or their business.
Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, what are some of the things we've done since the CID has been in approved?
Gosh, so that's a that's a big question over the last 12 years. But from the very beginning, the property owners identified basically four major points that they wanted to focus on. One, it's public safety. That was the number one concern back in 2009, 10. The second one was landscaping and beautification. The third one was transportation and transit infrastructure. And then the fourth one was economic development. Um, Later on, we kind of developed this fifth one, which is really, they wanted a representative. They wanted a community liaison that could listen to their issues and then go out to all the various public agencies from GDOT to the city to the county to the state and be able to solve those issues. So that kind of community liaison kind of developed throughout the years. But the initial four are the kind of the core pillar of our CID, and they still true today. So here we are, 12 years later. That is still what we focus on.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the concept of public safety. How have you joined with public safety to further the efforts of CID?
Yes, so that those partnerships, changed throughout the years. In the early years, it was unincorporated Fulton County, and we would partner with the Fulton County PD and hire officers to do additional patrols. So we could basically be a partner to the police department, and we would sit down with them, look at the crime data, and identify the trends. So back in the day, that area around I-20, Fulton Industrial, Shirley Drive, Commerce Drive, that kind of the core entrance of the district was the area with the highest crime rates. So we would hire officers to do extra patrols focusing on that area, basically half a mile around, north, half a mile south of I-20 Fulton Industrial Boulevard interchange. And we would focus on that. We would focus on the businesses like the hotels that were where the source of a lot of crime was taking place, um, and quality of life crime, car break-ins. We've noticed things like during the holidays, if it's like a 4th of July or Christmas, that crime would go up, break-ins would go up. So we would deploy additional officers, would fund additional officers to do more patrols during those holidays to counterbalance the increasing crime. So that has been that extra patrol. That has been the really what we focus on for the last 12 years. Now, throughout the years, that has grown and evolved in various different ways. We just helped fund 34 license plate readers for the district. So basically, when a car drives into Fulton Industrial, their license plate is red, and that license plate is run through a database. So if there is, if that person that owns that car is wanted for a serious crime, the police would be notified immediately. So we fund the cameras, but we don't look at them. We just give it to the police department to operate. So it's a partnership, and that has been very successful. They can do searches. So, for instance, if a property owner calls and say, we had a break-in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we saw a white van leaving our parking lot. The officers can do a search on the license plate readers database to see if any white vans drove through a license plate readers around 2 a.m. of that day, and then find that license plate and find that car and find who owns it and do the investigation that way. So we've gone from the traditional policing, which had more officers, to technology. City of South Fulton is talking about utilizing drones now for public safety, which is my understanding is very effective at Fulton Industrial, because the warehouses are so large. For an officer to run all the way back to a warehouse, it's quite a long run, but you can deploy a drone that can take a look to see what's going on, behind that warehouse. So we're in the process of partnering with the city to help fund more drones for Fulton Industrial for public safety.
Well, I'll tell you, you've done a great job in public safety. I know that during the early years, I was a part of a lot of those hotels that had to be leaving, uh, going in and talking to the managers and stuff about what they were not doing. And you've done an outstanding job. And I think that Fulton Industrial has become on the public safety, become a safer place. And I think it's a lot because of the fact that your cooperation with the PD and others that has gotten us to where we are today. So I want to thank you guys for that, because that's one of the main things that we talked about the CID in its inception. That was one of the main topics that we had a concern about. So it's been great. I think the crime has been as lowered. I mean, the city has bought another building over there, and you got 3 buildings cities got over there that they're working out of. So it's a great thing. Uh, let's talk about the landscaping, because that's my thing. I used to be a time I didn't like getting off I-20 to go to Fulton Industrial Boulevard. And tell us about that. Tell us what that entails, and what's the concept behind it. First, let me thank you for doing it, because it's changed the whole focus of Fulton Industrial Boulevard.
Yeah, so the landscaping beautification is, so I guess I should say, Fulton Industrial is a state road. So it's traditionally, it would be GDOT's responsibility to maintain it. And, they weren't doing the best job.
Right.
Let's just put it that way. 10, 12 years ago. And a lot of times the grass wasn't cut for several months, and there would be 2, 3 feet tall in the median and shoulders. There were litter everywhere that weren't being picked up. So we started with the very basics. Let's maintain the medians, let's maintain the shoulders, not just cutting grass, but really helping cultivate a really healthy turf. So, spraying, weed control and fertilizers to really get like that parkway look and feel. And then we focus on litter pickup. The very beginning, I mean, we're removing tires and large, sofas and, just large pieces of litter that were dumped to Fulton Industrial. And we continue to do that on a weekly basis for the last 12 years. So our workers, they begin right at I-20, Fulton Industrial. They begin on Monday at 7 a.m. They make their way north. So they go into unincorporated Fulton and then to the city of Atlanta, up to Donald Lee Hollowell. And then they come all the way down city of South Fulton, south of I-20. And then by Thursday, if there's not a raining day, maybe Friday, they're down at Kimballton Road. And they're doing everything. They're cutting the grass and maintaining the medians. If there is, debris on the curbs, they're shoving gravel off the curbs. It's just, it sounds simple and straightforward, but it has made a world of difference that people know that when they're coming to work on Monday, they're going to see people out there, working, maintaining the area, and to let people know that it's not okay to, throw litter out. Like, this is a well-maintained area, please respect the area. And I think that this continued work sends that message.
Very good. In terms of transportation, knowing that you have to involve DOT, uh, there has been some talk when I was commissioner at the time of a roundabout at Campbellton Road and some other things, some connectivity. Where are we? Where are we on those things?
So transportation, big topic, especially, working with GDOT, which is a huge agency. And, our district, our GDOT district is the same as Midtown, Buckhead, Perimeter. So it's an extremely busy district that we're working with the same people and kind of competing for the same attention and for the same funds as those really busy areas and influential areas. So, working with GDOT, from the very, one of the first projects was adding sidewalks between the I-20 interchange to Shirley Drive and to Commerce Drive. That was a heavily trafficked pedestrian area, and they were walking the dirt, but that we could see kind of like where the grass was, and then just the dirt where people would walk. So one of the first projects we did was add sidewalks to that area. We added street lights for public safety. And then, of course, we added beautification and landscaping to the interchange itself. We also added a sculpture and some gateway signage to that area. Recently, we completed a freight cluster plan for the district. So that was a 2-year effort from 2020 to 2022, looking at really analyzing. We did a traffic analysis of all intersections of Fulton Industrial. We did stakeholder interviews. We looked at all the previous plans that had been done. And then at the end of the day, that freight cluster plan made 52 recommendations on how to improve Fulton Industrial. And we've been working literally one by one. We have about 20 recommendations that we're currently working on right now from that freight cluster plan out of those 52. We're focusing on, the major intersections. So starting from the top, City of Atlanta, Donald Lee Hollowell, and FIB. So that's the very top of the district. We're working on that with the City of Atlanta. We are trying to come up with a beautification project for MLK and FIB right by the Fulton County Airport, because that's a major gateway into the district. I already mentioned I-20 Fulton Industrial. We've done a lot of work there, as well as Shirley Drive and Commerce Drive. GDOT has several projects on Bucknell, West Park, Villanova, where they are making median improvements. Great Southwest Parkway as well. So basically, they're improving the median so cars can make a left turn more safely, and they have a better sight vision of incoming cars. So they're modifying the median so you can see a little bit better, and those cars don't have that head-on collision as they're trying to make that left turn into those streets. The CID has probably our major project right now is a partnership with the City of South Fulton, and it's the Cascade FIB intersection improvement. So it's operational improvement there, trying to add additional stacking area to be able to, once you're coming down Cascade into Fulton Industrial, to be able to make a left turn safer, better aligned with the Great Southwest Parkway, which is on the other side, but also more stacking area so you can more efficiently be able to make that turn. Unfortunately, it's a high accident area that it's badly needed for many years, but we're working, it's a federally funded project, so takes a long time to get all the paperwork and all the studies that the feds like to see. So we've been working on it for about 5 years, but uh, I'm hopeful that that project will be let in April of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a much bigger project than just operational improvement because we're including uh, streetscapes as well. So the streetscapes portion, sidewalks, street trees, lighting, the boundaries are West Park, which is where City of South Fulton City Hall is, all the way to Lakeview Court, which is the first street south of Camp Creek. And then you have the quick trip there on FIB and Camp Creek, and the street behind that is Baker's Ferry. So the
Mm-hmm.
project will go all the way to Baker's Ferry. And then on the other side, you have the Taco Bell and uh, the car wash on Fulton Camp Way. So the project will go all the way to that area as well. So it's a large area of streetscapes, adding sidewalks, really trying to make that the food and beverage hub for the district. There's a lot of pedestrians there, just trying to make it as inviting as possible for people to be able to come in and have their lunch there during their lunch break.
Yeah, and that was important. It's one of the things that I was concerned about when I was mayor was the fact that we need to have a central place where people can eat. We have so many employees, so that's good. It's good to hear that you're still working on that. Uh, One thing about it, trucks are inundating our highways all around. And one thing I'm finding out, and I'm having to report a lot, is trucks parking on the right of way for long periods of time, or leaving the trucks in their ingress and egress areas for long periods of time. Now, understanding that a truck parked in a right of way uh, is illegal. I mean, that's a state law, but we do get them here and there where they'll leave the trucks overnight. Uh, First of all, do you know of any truck parking lots in the area where truckers can actually park their trucks?
So that's an excellent question and observation. And, you know, I would never sugarcoat it, the issue of truck parking with you
Mhm.
because it's a major issue. And it's an issue in all of Metro Atlanta. I mean,
Yeah.
you can drive to Gwinnett, to Woodstock, Cherokee, to McDonough. I mean, there's trucks everywhere, trucks illegally parked, trucks parked on the on ramps, off ramps. Uh, it's a big issue. The Atlanta Regional Commission has a freight task force, and they're looking at the issue and study the issue of truck parking. Um, you know, one of the questions that they always talk about is this a solution, truck parking? Is this something the government should provide, that solution, or is it the private sector, or is it a combination of both? So a lot of those conversations are going on. We know, for instance, uh, rest stops. Georgia has rest stops in certain highways,
Mhm.
um, but we don't have a whole lot of truck parking that is publicly funded, publicly created truck parking because it is a regional or a state issue, not just a Fulton industrial issue. Um, so at Fulton Industrial, it's definitely an issue like everywhere else. Um, there is a large truck parking facility on Donald Lee Hollowell and the I-285, and then there's really smaller locations like the Quick Trip at Camp Creek and Fulton Industrial has truck parking maybe for 40, 50 trucks. There's a racetrack on Thornton Road and and uh and I-20 that also has maybe 40 spots for trucks. Very, very few. Uh, so one of the things that we're doing now, we just launched a study um, to be able to try to solve that problem at Fulton Industrial. So we're doing a study right now. The study is a combination of EV, electric vehicle master plan, but also wayfinding signage and truck parking. So we're looking at all those issues, because it could be that in one single location you could have truck parking, you could have electric charging, and then of course you need good signage to direct the truckers or the cars to that location. So we thought wayfinding signage plan would be important to do at the same time, so that the people know how to find it. Um, but it is a challenge. It's there's a lot of trucks. We on our freight cluster plan. There's a photo, I guess a picture that it's really interesting. And what the consultants were able to do, they were able to get GIS data, GPS data, and map it in a map in a GIS file, showing where the trucks go or come from that originate at Fulton Industrial, or where their destination is Fulton Industrial, within a day's trip. So they mapped all this, and the map looks like this, basically like this star, and you have all these dots that are trucks. And I wish I had the photo here with me, but uh, it shows the trucks coming from literally the entire Southeast, from Nashville to Columbia, South Carolina, to Spartanburg, to Savannah, to I-75 coming from Florida, from Mobile, Alabama, from New Orleans, and then from just the West, like Texas, Alabama. And so basically, the trucks that we see every day at Fulton Industrial, in the morning or in the evening, they might be in New Orleans, and then 7 hours later, here they are at Fulton Industrial.
Mhm.
So they're making a delivery, and they don't know anything about the area. They're just driving because that's where their destination is. Um, so that's what we found, is that to address the problem is just not educating, you know, like local truckers, but those truckers are coming from the entire Southeast.
Yeah.
Within 7 hours, you reach, a huge portion of the country. Um, so it's a big challenge to provide parking, communicate where that parking is located to a trucker that is from out of town, that is only here making a delivery for maybe 2, 3 hours, and then heading back to where they came from, or going to a new location, picking
Mhm.
up a load and going to a new location. So it's a huge logistics challenge.
Well, that's who you are. I mean, that's who Fulton Industrial is. Has always been that way. I can tell you that the city of South Fulton has deemed certain roads as not to be traveled by trucks. We all went through that, and make sure we didn't hurt Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Catherine Rao, who is the district council person at that time, was very involved with that, and I think we came up with a very good arrangement. But it seems to me that from a community area, seems that truckers want to find the shortest way to get to where they got to go, you know, and we're still having some problems. So through our community, to the communities, their destination is Fulton Industrial Boulevard. All right. Now, I'll ask you this because I don't know how true it is. I found out later there is a device that is designed strictly for truckers. All right, that keeps them off certain roads. But when you approach a trucker, when the police or anybody else, tell them that, well, this is the way my instruments told me to go. All right. But now I understand that there is a device that truckers can use to keep them out of certain areas. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm not really familiar with it, but I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, we do have Google and Waze and all different kinds of
Right.
ways to help us get around. So if they have a special device, I'm not familiar with it, but
Yeah.
again, not surprised either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once again, they've talked about the roads and stuff. Like I say, Councilwoman Rao has been instrumental and very helpful. And I know you know that she is the Fulton Industrial CID is one of her her things that she really gets excited about. and that's great to know to help you all. You have that conversation with the city. But let's talk now about economic development. How is that? How is the economic development? What's the plan? How's it affecting what happens in the rest of the city?
Great topic. And it really throughout the years, it really changed what that means. So in the beginning in 2012, I mean, some of those industrial parks were the vacancy rate was as high as 50%. Um, you'd go into an industrial park in 2012 and half of the warehouses were empty. Um, so the kind of the strategy back then was, let's clean up the district, make it safer, cleaner, more vibrant, and hopefully those warehouses will get, leased up. That has happened, and I think, I would say by 2020, the brokers were telling me that Fulton Industrial is basically fully leased. When they say fully leased, it's about 95% leased, and there's always like that 5% vacancy, so there's always somebody, coming and going. But the district is, pretty much all leased. Then the second kind of layer of that, the lease rates started going up. So back in the day was $2-3 a square foot, now $7 a square foot. So lease rates started going up um, in the district. The third thing that we started seeing is vacant land started to be bought up for more warehouses. So in the last 5 years, I believe we've had 5 million square feet of warehouses built in the district. So, we can, the kind of the big ones, UPS in the city of Atlanta there, 1100 FIB, Amazon at Campbellton and Fulton Industrial. And then just north of that, there's two new streets called Maple Avenue and Oaklawn Avenue. There's five new warehouses in that location. So that we're basically kind of running out of land. So kind of the fourth phase of economic development that I see is redevelopment. So we started seeing warehouses being torn down so they can put a new warehouse in that same location. So Americold on LaGrange and Xavier Drive, they had a existing facility, was a refrigerated warehouse operating for 20, 30 years. They tore it down and then built a new one in the same location. So they like the district, they don't want to leave, they need to expand. So they thought it was worthwhile paying for the demolition, because a company has options. Like a company can go to Douglas County, Carroll County. They can go next door and just buy a piece of land that is vacant, much cheaper, and move. So if they decide to stay at Fulton Industrial, that means that they really want to be at Fulton Industrial, and that's a really good sign when we start seeing redevelopment that they don't want to just jump ship and go to another county or another city. Um, the other example, there's a data center under construction right now on Selig Drive. That's interesting on many different ways. One is the first data center that I'm aware of at Fulton Industrial. Um, but again, they bought a warehouse, a legacy business, Latham Electric. They bought it, tore it down, and then they're building this data center. I just drove by. It's huge. It's it's under construction and it's almost done. They should be done in about 6 months. But again, very interesting to see Fulton Industrial redevelop in that way. It's desirable. You are literally 9 miles from Hartsfield Jackson. You are, you know, within a 20-30 minute drive of about 6 million people. So that's very desirable for an industrial logistics company, warehousing, distribution. Um, so economic development, the definition has changed throughout the years. Um, and I think there's a new phase coming now with at I-20 with some of those hotels that I guess will continue to change the definition and the evolution of economic development.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the scariest things that's happened to me in my tenure in politics with Fulton Industrial is when you guys told me y'all were leaving. I don't know if you remember that meeting with I was there with David Singh and others,
Yes.
and you guys, I told you guys, what is it going to take to keep you? And you gave me about four things, and David always tells people I came back with eight, where he was able to maintain. But that was a scary situation because you wanted to go to Douglasville. Our warehouses, our lifts were not as high or low as what they should be. They were in compliance, and I was like, "Whoa, what can you do about that?" But you survived it. You
Right.
survived the onslaught of the new industrial park in Douglasville, and I think that's because of the a lot of the things that you were doing as a group that helped it to stay. Not just me as commissioner. I mean, I just had to sit there and listen to you guys, but the fact that y'all were able to tell your renters or your people who own warehouses, this is the place to stay, and we need to inspect of what Douglasville is doing. Uh, no kick to Douglasville, so all my Douglasville friends, I'm still your friends, but we were fighting hard to stay where we were. Uh, let's talk a little bit about, and I'm glad you mentioned the occupancy rate because I was going to mention that. And then occupancy rate has been pretty steady over the years, hasn't it?
He has. He has. It's the real estate brokers tell me it's hard to find a available space of old industrial. It's in high demand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what people don't know. They'll think that some people always tell me, say, why don't y'all do some of those warehouses, tear some of them down? Well, there's nothing to tear down. 95% occupancy rate. Uh, that's very, very good. We're very proud of that as a community. Um, you know, one of the things that we did, years ago, let's talk about hotels for a minute. Years ago, people would, even if they lived in the community, they would go to the hotels for the weekend and they would participate in Six Flags over Georgia. I'm one of those people. All right. And seemingly now we're going to the world. Hotels now, the hotel at I-20 are now owned by Fulton County. So it's the old McDonald's. All right. Let's talk about the possibility of bringing some hotels back on the corridor. And have you been told what they want to do with the old hotel for Fulton County that they purchased there at I-20?
Good questions. The the hotel, uh, story of Fulton Industrial is it's like a it's like a telenovela of there's so many highs and lows and the good and the bad and the ugly and everything else. I came into the picture in 2012, but I have heard from people that in the 70s, 80s that the hotels were well frequented. There was families coming to Six Flags and they would stop by and stay the night at the hotels. Unfortunately, throughout the 90s and early 2000s, it really kind of went downhill and crime really, took place in the area. If I'm not mistaken, that show Cops was filmed in the area back in the day in the 90s, uh, which is, uh, kind of unfortunately highlighting like a negative aspect of the district, but it was a source of crime. You know, um, we we kind of noticed that most of the crime was taking place in and around the hotels. Um, Back in the day, the county showed us a heat map of all the crime, and the corner of Shirley Drive and Fulton Industrial was one of the highest crime rates in the entire county. And that's the location where you had, gas stations, liquor stores, hotels, um, and just it just kind of created a synergy of crime between the businesses that were located within the close proximity of each other. Um, so we kind of said, let's kind of quantify exactly what the problem is. And I think we had 11 hotels.
Right.
I would say something like 1,100 rooms. And there wasn't enough demand for that. So what would happen is the rental rates would drop. Some hotels at one point, I want to say around 2013, 14, they were renting rooms for $20 a night. And that would bring more crime. Um, the other issue with the hotels in that area, they weren't a modern design where you have a central lobby with security, with a doorman, with cameras, and then you get, screen, show your ID, then you go to your room. Some of the hotels have, you know, uh, direct access from the street. So, in terms of a kind of a design that kind of perpetuates crime, and the criminal and the person, uh, uh, kind of looking to commit the crime, they can just access the rooms without going through a central lobby, without being on camera. That would just create more and more crime. So we talked to the county about that, throughout the years, and say, I think that in order for that I-20 interchange area to really redevelop and to reach its full potential, we don't need as many hotels as we have now. I said, and also the amount of money that the county is spending, or the city, in fighting crime, you could put that money just by acquiring the hotels and tearing it down, at least a portion of them, and um, there'll be less crime, and there'll be that cost savings on public safety. So the county targeted a number of hotels. The first one was the Airway Motel, which is Fulton Industrial and Aviation Circle. They
Yeah.
purchased that one, and then already tore it down. That was the source of a lot of crime, very unfortunate things, homicide. It was in the news constantly, and it's a relief just to see it gone. And the design was this very old school. Um, you could access the rooms straight from the street. So for like drug dealing, people would just come in and out. You just see cars coming in and out all day long. Um, so that was purchased, that was demolished. And then subsequently, the county purchased the Knights Inn, the gas station next door, the McDonald's next door, the Red Roof Inn, the Executive Inn, which was abandoned for many years, that has
Yeah.
been shut down for at least 15, if not more. And then the county bought the Super Inn as well. So we still have hotels in the area. There is, I think, still 4 hotels in the area. But it's the whole area has stabilized. So there's less crime, almost no crime in that area now. Um, and you know, it has been great for public safety. And I think now, it looks dilapidated because obviously you have an abandoned building with a fence around it, but it's an improvement over how they were being run for the last, decade. And to me, it's exciting to think of what's to come, what's to come in the future. I think that that's exciting as well. Um, I don't think the district, has any issues with hotels, but it has to be well run. It has to be clean, well run, well managed. And typically, I hate to say it, but typically that means having a nice brand, like a Marriott, like a Hilton, like, something that corporate brand will ensure that it's going to be well run. And it's it's Fulton Industrial. It's a busy area. Whatever business goes in that area has to be well run and well managed, and I think that's the key. So I don't know if the future will have, if those properties will become hotels again. I can tell you the county has told me the Super Inn and the Executive Inn are both due to be demolished by June. So they should be gone, just completely gone. Um, which I think is exciting. That's prime land, to be redeveloped. Um, and then the Knights Inn and McDonald's, they just did an open house. The county did an open house, and they did a request for information, RFI, which I believe is due tomorrow, March 7th, for any developers that are interested in those properties. The county is soliciting information from developers saying, what would you do here? How much did you pay for the property? How would you redevelop it? And so they're asking those questions.
And the reason I asked is because I just wanted to know, shown me today even more properties that the county owned that I didn't know. And I think that there should be a comprehensive plan, which brings in the CID, to take a look at what are the needs and what would be the best benefit to the corridor, and then work it that way. Because the other part of it is this: if it's a county building, then I'm concerned about the policing of county property, because it's actually a lot of that is actually in the city of South Fulton, and I know there's mutual aid and allows us to do something, but you have to take all that in consideration and look at what's the possibilities, because you say, I want to do this over here. Okay, that's cool, but you bringing in more people, be more law enforcement. How can we merge together to make sure that the corridor is safe? So I don't see that. I just want to know what everybody's thinking in terms of, it may not be hotels, maybe something else. But we to the point now we've acquired the property. I think we should be thinking along the lines of what is going to be here, and not wait until the developer tells us what he wants. And so that's just my 2 cents in it. But it makes sense to me. I didn't know they own even more property than I thought they did.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, it was an interesting situation where the county started acquiring them before that area was city of South Fulton, and then the area became city of South Fulton. But you're right. Right now, it is in the city of South Fulton, and I hope that the county will get the city and the CID involved, to look for the best outcomes for those properties. It's an exciting time because it's a blank canvas.
Right.
So where do we go from here is the big question, and it's an exciting question.
Well, Dolores has a question for you, Gil. Dolores, go ahead.
Gail, I have a question that came in over the Facebook. Are there any incentives for hotel owners to buy or develop in the area? That's the first question.
Yeah, so a couple of things. In terms of incentives, the area had an opportunity zone that expired in 2020. The county and the city put in another application, and that was just approved just about a month ago, and it includes that area around I-20 Fulton Industrial Boulevard. It's only a handful of parcels, maybe 20, 30 parcels that have opportunity zone. Opportunity zone is jobs tax credits. So for new jobs created in Georgia, it's $3,500 per new job created in tax credits for the business owner. So that is in place. So you'd have to check exactly the parcel if that parcel is included. The second thing is, I would say, the CID is a great incentive because you're buying a property, putting in a hotel, making an investment in an area where you have a CID that is consistently looking after you as a property and business owner, with additional public safety, with landscaping and beautification on a weekly basis. I mean, it's like a homeowners association that's kind of guaranteed that you're going to preserve the economic value of your business or property. So I think that's a huge incentive. And then getting down to just the nitty-gritty of the Fulton County properties, they have, right now they have this request for information. It's not yet a request for proposal or an RFP, but they're soliciting kind of information from interested parties that are interested in those properties. And I think that closes tomorrow, March 7th. But then the next step will be to, solicit proposals. Um, you know, what would you like to build there? How much would you pay for the land? What's your proposed, development? So all that will be coming up in the next a couple months.
Okay, the other question is there a South Fulton master plan for the district?
So I would say no. So we have kind of piecemeal. So, I mentioned the freight cluster plan. So that's a plan for transportation. So looking at, the roads and intersections and what needs to be done. The city of South Fulton has, zoning and land use over the area. But I wouldn't say that we have a master plan per se. But that's a good question and a good idea.
Good. The face of the corridor has changed a little bit since the city of South Fulton has gained significant amounts of the corridor into the city. Does that hinder anything? I mean, you're still working with the same governments, the city of Atlanta, Fulton County, and the city of South Fulton. Has there been any pressure to do anything since we've done that?
No, I think, at the beginning, obviously, the when it first was incorporated in 2017, you had that little bit of a kind of a learning curve.
Yeah.
And which is expected, staffing up a city and whatnot. But it's been, throughout the years. I mean, that's already what, 7 years ago. So that's already a long time ago, and the city has been, rocking and rolling, and just I am glad that the city stayed, City Hall stayed a Fulton Industrial, because I know there's been talks of leaving, but I do like having you guys close, to us. But yeah, it's been a smooth transition, and we have several projects with Public Works, with SFPD, so economic development. So I don't think it's been an issue.
Okay. Before we close, you have any closing statements about the corridor? What I will say this, I think the marketing of the corridor, information being processed and given out about the corridor, I think that that's why I wanted to put this show on, because it probably 90% of the people don't know nothing about the CID who live in the city. Okay. And so if you have a website, please tell us about it, or you got other marketing information that gives people an opportunity to learn about the CID, please let us know that.
Absolutely. That's a good point. So our website is boulevardcid.org, and Boulevard is spelled out cid.org. We have a lot of information there. I have a person working on literally updating that on a daily basis. So on the very first page, you have all of our projects, all of our programs. You scroll down to the bottom, we have all the news. So we've been just in this month alone, we're on Georgia Trend magazine, we're on the Atlanta Business Chronicle, we're on a magazine called Capital Analytics, and all those articles are, you can find the link right there at the bottom. Right to the side of that is how you subscribe to our newsletter. So we have quarterly newsletters, and you can put in your information, email, and subscribe. Now, if you go back up to the top where it says news, there's a little arrow, and you can click on that, and we have an archive of all the newsletters. So if you want to read our newsletter from December, it's quarterly. So from December, from September of last year, June of last year. Everything is there, archived, and we've been kind of taking the time to do kind of like a really in-depth newsletter that talks about the companies in the district, who they are, why they're there, how long they've been there, what products they make, where the customers are. So I would take the time to read it. It's really interesting. We've been kind of going more in depth in the last 4 or 5 newsletters.
It's very important too. This is my last comment. It's very important too that the companies that are on Fulton Industrial Boulevard, where possible, can join forces with the city or the county, and doing things in communities. How is that coming? I don't see a whole lot of cooperation between the cities on Fulton, the businesses on Fulton Industrial Boulevard and the city doing neighborhood projects.
I think, yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think there's always room for improvement and for collaboration. The CID, we're so hyper focused on the district, improving the roads, improving the landscaping, that you're right, we're really just working to fix Fulton Industrial to be the best that it can be. But there are opportunities. I know companies in the district that partner with the Bankhead Boys Association, and they do mentoring. Miller Zell is one of those companies that links kids in the neighborhoods to the businesses in the area. So there are opportunities out there, but always there's room for improvement as well.
Good. Well, in closing, you all have done a great job. I've been involved with CID since I started back being a commissioner, and we've come a long ways. And I want to thank you and the board for doing for being so vigilant. In cooperation with the cities and the counties to do a good job. Those of you who have not seen the progress, who have not known Fulton Industrial over the last 20 years, you may not know what I'm talking about, but there's been tremendous improvement since that time, and I contribute that to you, Gil, and the board, and the board before you, people like David Sims and Arthur Ferdinand and Sandra Hardy, who all came up with an idea that they didn't know was going to happen or not, but being fervent about what they were doing, they made it happen. And then you guys have come along and continued that spirit and have made Fulton Industrial Boulevard what it is today, Miller Zale and all these people. So we really appreciate everything that you've done, and continue to do it. And we'll come back on the show again and see where we are, Gil, and move forward with it. I think when you came out, you were like the vice president or something when you first came during that time. But now you're the man. Now you're the man. So anyway, well, I thank you for being here. Thank you so much, and good luck as we go on to the future. Like I said, longer time of collaboration with us, and let's make South Fulton County and the city of Atlanta all that it can be on Fulton Industrial Boulevard. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your support throughout the years. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.